Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Coffee with Tamara. That's me. I've got one of my favorite mugs because I'm ready to get into it. So here's what I'm finding. As I talk to people more and more, the conversation is about exhaustion and energy or lack of, and overwhelm and feeling frustrated. They never feel like they have enough time to do everything. But also, I think the mental exhaustion that's going on with people. Do you feel that as well? I'm hearing it all over the place. And it's no fun to go through your day feeling like you don't have the mental energy, feeling like you are mentally cloudy or foggy, or that you just don't have the energy to make the hard decisions. I find oftentimes too, when we get exhausted, we get really indecisive. We get really short. Sometimes we just make decisions real quickly to get them off our plate without thinking them through because we just want to be done, right? We just want to move on. But we're always exhausted. Like we always want to just go lie down and take a nap. Well, that's not a great place to be. And it's not a great place to be for a couple of reasons. I think on the personal side, right, it really doesn't feel good. And on the professional side, you're not playing at your best. You are not making your best decisions. You're not accessing your zone of genius. You're not having the best ideas. You're not taking the risks you need to take to move forward. All those things get stunted because you're freaking tired. By the way, I know this because I have 100% felt this. So I am sharing my tips and tricks for minimizing or decreasing that exhaustion and increasing that energy. And increasing that energy isn't just about like, I have energy, I don't feel like taking a nap. Yeah, that's part of it. But it's also about having the energy to be innovative, to be productive, to be a strong everyday innovator. Tapping your zone of genius is about tapping your higher brain, right? That's where your wealth of innovation, and you're naturally hardwired to be an innovator. That's where that sits in your unique way. So we want to be able to tap that. But when you're exhausted, you never get past the primal brain. Oh, when I am exhausted, when I'm running on low energy, and not just because I'm not getting enough sleep, I mean like because I'm overwhelmed and underwater and I'm doing too much and my day's too busy. When I am playing from that space, I am white knuckling through the day. So we don't want to be there. So I've figured out some tips and tricks, and there's some science and research behind all of this as well that has really helped me keep my energy high and keep my exhaustion at bay. And I will tell you, I know that you are in the same boat as I am in this way. I have a lot of big dreams, and I have some big things that I want to accomplish. So I don't feel like I can afford to be playing at my C game. I need to be at my A game. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that because what I'm not saying is you have to run hot all the time and be trying to sprint the marathon. But you'll see when I get into the tips. But I am saying that I need to be thinking clearly. I need to be making my best decisions. I need to have my most meaningful and innovative ideas. I need to be implementing the right things. I need to be prioritizing the right things. I can't do that if I'm exhausted. And I don't feel like I have the room. I'm a small business. Just being totally honest, I don't feel like I have the room to not be playing from that space. And I know a lot of people feel like that. So whether you work in a large company or you're a solopreneur, you probably feel a little bit like that too. So with that said, now that we have clearly articulated the pain, let me have a cup or sip of coffee. And then let's dig into, I have 4 tips for you that all kind of go together that are really practical. Okay. They're really practical tips that are going to help you actually restructure your day in a way that's going to make you more productive and more innovative. Okay, here we go. You ready? Number 1 is I want you to start your day by going to the gym of innovation. Here's what I'm talking about. Actually, let me relate it to fitness for a second. So you've often heard the fitness experts talk about going to the gym in the morning is great because it ups your metabolism all day long. So if you go to the gym in the morning, right, you get the benefits of not just having gotten it up and get the confidence and the kind of sense of accomplishment of getting it out of the way. You also up your metabolism all day long. So you're burning more calories all day long. So, by the way, I don't care what time you go to the gym as long as you go. I think health should be a priority. But the mind in the same is a lot like the body in this way. So if we spend 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, 10 on a day that we have time, going to the gym of innovation and just exercising our innovative mind, we'll get the benefits of that all day long. I promise you that. So every morning, I start my day by doing a 5-minute activity that I know gets me into the space, into my zone of genius. Now, I'm the pioneer archetype. So I am experiential and I'm risk taker. So for me, the experiential side is I innovate in motion by doing, and the risk taker side is I innovate by being uncomfortable and building the plane while I'm flying, basically. Now, you might be the gatherer, you might be the integrator, you might have inquisitive, and it's all about questions for you. You're not going to have the same things I have. So I have found that there's 3 things in the morning that I rotate through. They're just 5 minutes that really work for me. Number 1 is I build prototypes with what I'm thinking. And it's not because I'm looking for even a solution. I'm just exercising my innovative mind. So I will take duct tape and scented markers, whatever I have on my desk, and I'll just build out or draw out some of my thinking. And that just helps my brain open up. It taps that experiential side of my pioneer archetype. And then I have the benefit of that all day long. So that's one thing I love to do. The risk taker side of me, I call it Mars mind mapping. And what I mean by that is I'm like, what is the biggest, craziest, boldest idea I could possibly do? What is that like crazy, innovative idea that would just, get more podcast listeners, that would sell 1 million IQEs overnight, like whatever it is. And I just free for all, no judgment. Nobody else is ever going to look at these pieces of paper. But for me, it's almost a little bit uncomfortable because I'm thinking so big, but that's where I innovate best because of my archetype. And the third thing that for me works because it really elevates my mood. And in fact, I just talked about this in a TikTok video and a YouTube video is I will do a little 1-song dance. I love movement. I love to dance. It puts me in the right energy space. It elevates my brain, right? It elevates my mood. So I love to do that. So sometimes before I sit down, especially if I'm feeling really, really blah, I will dance. I'll pick 1 song and I'll dance. Oh, so the question in the chat bar is, what kind of music? What are your favorite songs? All right, so here's the deal. I'm a product of the 80s hip hop. So when in doubt, I've got some Ice Cube on, I've got some Janet Jackson on, I've got some Wu-Tang on, like that's my music. So Biggie, man, you can never go wrong with Biggie. So that's the kind of music I like to jam out to. You can do whatever you like, whatever works for you. So, but my point is, the first tip really is if you really want to be more productive, more innovative, and have more energy, go to the gym of innovation in the morning so that you up your metabolism all day long. Your innovation metabolism will be elevated. So oftentimes, whatever that exercise is I do in the morning in my gym of innovation, oftentimes those exercises have nothing to do with what I have going on that day. But I guarantee you that on the days that I do it, I feel the productivity and the innovation and the energy. I feel it. It's just higher on those days. So gym of innovation, 5 minutes. It's in my calendar. Put it in there. Do not avoid it. And in fact, when I'm the most stressed out and have the most to do is absolutely on the days where I make sure not to miss those 5 minutes. We all have 5 minutes, I promise you. So don't miss it. It'll change your innovative thinking for the rest of the day. This is going to sound like a little bit of a side tangent, but it relates. Oftentimes when I keynote, when I speak at conferences, we agree to have me speak as the opening keynote. And that has nothing to do with my stage presence or ability to tell stories. I think I'm pretty good at all those, but that's not the reason. The reason that really gets them to put me in the opening keynote spot, and it's true, is because when people come to that opening keynote for 45, 60 minutes, and I've gotten them to see what type of everyday innovator they are, they all take the assessment, and I've gotten them to think differently and open up some fresh perspectives in their mind, they then go to the rest of the conference and hear the other industry information that they would have heard anyway, with a new lens, with a new innovative lens. So they get the benefit of what I'm teaching people in that 45, 60 minutes, but it trickles through the entire conference. So people get more out of the conference because the opening keynote was about thinking differently. It's about innovation and what type of innovator they are. And then they take that to everything else. Well, I'm telling you the same thing for your day. Go to the gym of innovation, steep yourself in innovation that works for you in the morning, and then experience the difference all day long. Now, as I mentioned, right, there's several different types of archetypes. Well, there's 36 actually archetypes, 252 combinations when you add in the dormant trigger. So the exercises that I might recommend to you with your archetype are going to be very different than the ones that I'm going to use for me. So just be aware of that. If you are out there and you know your archetype, at the back of your report are exercises that you can do. And even better, if you have the Everyday Innovators Mastery Certification, I have one entire module that has those exercises for you. So you'll get it right then and there. So for example, and I don't want to give all of them away, and we don't really have the time to dig into every single one, but let's just say for a moment, your archetype is the catalyst. So that means you have collaborative and tweaker in your archetype. So your archetype, the catalyst, is all about pulling disparate people and ideas and experiences together to create whole innovation and optimized innovation by editing and adjusting and evolving. You're really good at taking something that exists and taking it to a whole new level. So for you, your gym of innovation might be the collaborative in the morning side, might be about talking to people you don't normally talk to about the ideas that you're thinking about, like gathering information. Or it could be about doing this exercise that is a huge winner for people out there with the tweaker in their archetype. So the maximizer, the perfecter, the observant, any of those, which is called the 2% activities, which is all about making things 2% better, 2% different, 2% more innovative, and kind of going up the ladder. Oh, Jessica says she loves that one. It's her favorite gym of innovation exercise. Oh, good. Which archetype are you? The magnifier. Okay. So you're the magnifier, which is imaginative and tweaker, right? So the tweaker, we just kind of talked about the 2%, and the imaginative is all about playing in the gap. So we have this whole exercise, right, about removing information so that you have more space to kind of play a little bit of that, bring it to life. You're so good at that. Yeah, you love that one too. Exactly. Now, for me, that doesn't work because my archetype is different. And for Elaine, it might be a little bit different. So if you have our Innovation Mastery Certification like Jesse does, then you can access them. They're right there. Gym of Innovation. Just do something that sparks it all day long. Okay, that's number one. Number two, and this one, wow, it makes a huge difference. Work in cycles. Whether that's 25, 60, or 90 minutes, your brain is not designed to sit down for 7 hours and grind it out from task to meeting to problem to email to meeting to meeting to task to meeting, right? The list goes on. You're not designed here. And here's what happens in your brain. You create this unbelievable, thick, heavy mental residue that gets heavier and heavier and heavier as the day goes on, which makes you, to no surprise, more and more exhausted. So you want to think about building your days in 25. 25 seems to work for some people. There's some research behind this. 60 minutes, 90. For me personally, it depends on the task. If I'm doing more remedial tasks like answering emails and things like that, then I'll do it in 25-minute cycles. If I'm doing something that's a bigger, important task, like I'm creating content for one of our courses online, then I might do 90-minute cycles because it's like takes me 15 minutes to get into the flow. And then once I'm in the flow, I want to stay in there a little longer. But at 90, man, I start to fade. So here's what I do. So let's say I'm doing, just to make it easy, let's say it's 60-minute cycles. I choose what task, whatever it is I'm working on for those 60 minutes. I shut everything else down because guess what? I don't need to email while I'm doing this task. I don't need to be scrolling. I don't need to be doing all that. So I shut everything else down. I do it, and I do it intensely for 60 minutes. And I think, by the way, yeah, I think, Delilah, I think you're right. The no distractions is a big part of that. You can't do that for 60 minutes and just be like, I'm going to answer this email here. I'm going to answer this email there. Research has shown that it takes our brain about 7 minutes to go from task to task, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So if you are working on something important, like you're putting together a presentation, and then you're constantly answering emails, you're never really focusing on the task at hand. So that's why I shut everything down. And I'll work for that 60 minutes. Then, and this is really tip number 3, I'll take a 5 to 7 minute break. And what I mean by break is no scrolling, No checking email, no looking at Instagram, none of that. No input of stimulus. 5 to 7 minutes of, I don't know, walk around the block or walk around the house, doing push-ups, sitting and just breathing. I put the timer on. Whatever it is, just take a break. Our brains need 5 to 7 minutes to complete one task, clear it out of the brain, so get rid of that mental residue, and then move on. So 60 minutes, 5 to 7 minute break. 60 minutes, 5 to 7 minute break. Here's the thing, and I know the pushback is, and Sally, I know you said this to me once, right? Like, how can I end up taking 30 minutes of breaks when I've got so much work to do? What have you found since then? Just curious. Put it in the chat bar. Right. You are more productive and more innovative when you take breaks and when you don't. Exactly. So you will really dial up your productivity and your innovation by taking the breaks, by working in cycles. And I'm pretty rigid about my cycles. Like when I start getting on them, that's what I do. And I take my breaks, even if there's an email I know I need to get to, I would rather come back to that important email clear and focused than frazzled and exhausted. So, you can also think of this as like kind of like your cell phone battery. So, when your battery is low, you plug it in and you recharge. You have to. Well, as we use our phone all day and we have more and more tabs open, things that we're working on, not completing, not closing out in our brains, not giving our brain a chance to clear out, move on, we're leaving all these open tabs in the back of our brain that are taking up energy. So you may not be directly thinking about something, but it's back there taking up energy, just like the 15 million apps I have on the back of my phone are taking up energy right now behind the scenes. Well, that's what happens in your brain. So when you don't take those 5 minute breaks, right, you're drained. So that's why by 2 o'clock, you're exhausted and having a hard time making decisions. And you go to that brainstorm and you've got nothing to give, or it's just the incremental usual idea. So you need to know that in order to truly be energized and innovative, your brain needs that, right? It needs to recharge just like your phone. And you and I both know, I don't exactly understand how it works, but it's true in the brain too, that when you keep that battery charge above the halfway mark, which mine is not right now, but when you keep it above the halfway mark, right, it seems to work better. And then somehow when it gets to halfway or lower, it just drains really quickly. It's like this weird warp. I don't know, but that's how your brains work too. So figure out your cycles. Okay. Start by going to the gym of innovation, get the innovation metabolism going, then work in cycles, 25, 60, 90, taking those 5 to 7 minute breaks in between with no scrolling, no stimulus, none of that. Right? Do that through your day. You'll find that you have way more energy. You have better ideas. You make better decisions. You're more willing to take the risks you need to take. All of it comes into place. You get into your zone of genius. It all works. Okay. The fourth one is just something that I've learned personally. I don't have any data behind this, but funny enough, I was just listening to the Ed Milet podcast, which I love. And he was talking about this too. And I thought, you know what? That is a trick to being energized. Do the hardest task or the thing that you fear the most first. So here's what I think happens. This is a little bit of science behind it. I'd love someone to do some research, actual research behind this. When we have something that we're anxious about, anxiety, stress, worry takes up a lot of energy in our brains, a lot. So if we've got, let's say, an email that we need to respond to a boss about that's not going to go well, like they're not happy about something or they're questioning something, and now we've got to respond. And we put that off because there's no urgency behind it. We put it off for, I don't know, until lunchtime because we're like, well, let's get to the other stuff first. Then I'll sit down and think about this email. What happens is that anxiety and that worry, knowing that hard task is coming, actually creates exhaustion. Of course, we're spending all this energy worrying about it. When we do that first, we clear our plate and our mind of that. So do the hard thing first. What I have found is that when I send out that sales email that I'm afraid to send out because what if they say no? If I respond to someone who wants a refund, it rarely happens, but every now and again, right? In fact, it actually just happened, which is why top of my mind. Someone who bought a subscription totally forgot about it, and they sent a really nasty email. And it was really unnecessary, but doesn't matter. What matters is I got it before I went to bed. And I was like, all right, that's the first thing I have to respond to in the morning. And I was kind of like really nervous about it. So I could have delayed it, right? I didn't need to do a 12-hour response necessarily. I didn't actually respond for him. I responded because I knew that if I didn't, it would sit in my brain all day long and everything else I would be trying to do wouldn't be done well. And I would just be exhausted because this thing was in the back of my mind as something I needed to respond to. Do you ever have when you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something, or maybe you've got a task that you just haven't gotten to because maybe it's not high priority, but maybe it stresses you out a little bit to deal with, so you don't. And then it just sits in the back of your brain every now and then. It like pops up and is like, I'm still here. I'm still here. Well, that's what happens when we delay the harder the task we fear most. They always say do the ones that are the highest priority first. I think that's partially true, but I really like to do the tasks that I fear the most or that I have the most anxiety about, because I want, first of all, my best brain is in the morning. Most of us are. So I want to get that done first while I'm very clear. And I know that if I do it first, I will clear it out of my brain and it won't sit with me for the rest of the day and get in the way of everything else I need to do. So do the hard task that you fear the most first. Okay, so if you want more energy, more productivity, more ability to drive innovation, start by going to the gym of innovation. And the key, by the way, on this one, I think I've alluded to it many times here, is do the exercises that work for you. We can all do a lot of the exercises, but what I find is if you do the ones that are specifically designed for how your brain is hardwired, it happens like that, right? Getting into that state of flow or that zone is not magical or accidental. You can activate it, but you got to do it in a way that actually works for your brain. That's why knowing your archetype is so important. So number one, go to the gym of innovation. Right. Or when in doubt, dance, someone said. Yes, exactly. So number one, go to the gym of innovation. Number two, work in cycles, right? So get super intense work and then take a break. Work, take a break. Have those breaks. Number three, be about 5 to 7 minutes, because that's what your brain needs to just close out that task, clear out, move on. And then number four, do the hardest or the thing you fear first. Always. All right. I hope this helps you. I'd love to hear your feedback or how you implement things. I know that I've heard, just like I said, so much frustration around how mentally exhausted people feel. And I will tell you, I'm over here feeling pretty darn good, but I'm feeling good because I've implemented these things. That has nothing to do with, whether I'm having a good day or a bad day at work or at home. Those things are just outside circumstances. What's really helped me keep my energy up and do the things that I feel like I need to do. Cause like I said, there's big dreams. We're on a big path over here, and I hope you are too. But in order to accomplish those, my energy has to be high. I can't afford to not to. And yes, copious amounts of coffee. I do love my coffee. Whoop. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. I know this is a short but powerful one, and I really want to hear how you've implemented. So on our website in the comment section, you can put it or tag us in social media. We're all over all of it. So tag us somewhere, but I want to hear from you. All right. Until next time.